I'd like to introduce you to my greatest restoration ever. This is also a restoration that I regret ever starting. Now, why do I regret starting this project? Well, let me show you what it looked like before I started. The four wheels on the bottom of the cabinet are rusted and destroyed. There's green lead paint on it. All of the hardware is painted. The inside base is rotten with broken drawers. The top even came from a different cabinet. The inside is disgusting. The top and bottom boards are rotten. All of the door joints are loose. One of the glass windows is broken. And that's just the tip of this iceberg. If you're interested in seeing my process for restoring this cabinet, this week is going to be part 1 where I restore the base. Next week is going to be part 2 where I restore the top.
You got to look at it this way, okay? You just got to look at it. That's all you can do anymore.
Well, I did look at it. Now this cabinet is way worse than I could have ever imagined. What was I thinking when I bought this?
It's a piece of junk!
I should have waited for a better cabinet. The first step with a disaster like this is to take off all of the hardware. I'll remove the door and drawers. I'll clean off this 50-year-old dirt, and then I'll figure out what to do next. I store all the hardware in a container. It's important not to lose any of it. I could replace the handles, but I like to keep this as original as possible. I guess I'll work my way up from the bottom. The original wheels were wooden. That's pretty cool. All 4 of the wheels, however, will need to be replaced. The bottom of the cabinet is thin and badly warped. It's going to need to be replaced also. I cut this 1/2-inch plywood to replace it. Now I'll secure it in place with some nails, which I'll countersink and fill later. The drawers are a disaster. I started to remove the old paint. I'm doing this outside and wearing a mask just in case this is lead paint. The orbital sander wasn't doing a great job. I had a better idea, a hand planer. I set the blade very low, just enough to remove a thin layer of paint. Wow, did that make quick work of this job. I also used the hand planer on a couple of the end pieces. For the middle panel, I'm using a chisel to scrape off the old paint. It's a bit of a slow go, but it seems to be working fairly well. The drawer joints are all loose, and they're going to need to be re-glued. It doesn't look like they ever had glue in here to begin with. There's no need to take them completely apart, so I'll just separate them enough to squirt glue in there. Then I'll use a plastic cable tie to spread the glue around. I'll clamp it, clean up, and then let it dry overnight. This drawer has a large chip in it. I can't leave it looking like that. Since I don't have the broken piece, the way that I make this type of repair is to flatten it out using a chisel. Once I have a flat surface, I can glue a small piece of wood to it. Once it dries, I can sand it to the proper shape. It doesn't really matter what kind of wood I use here since the cabinet is going to be painted anyway. For the metal racks on the inside, they weren't in bad shape, just very dull. I decided to spray paint them using a chrome color. The bottom drawer of this Hoosier cabinet, I believe it was used to store bread at one time. The sides and bottom are metal. It probably also had a metal top, but that was missing. The metal parts on the drawer have some rust, which I first cleaned using some fine steel wool. Then the remaining rust gets treated with a rust converter, like OSPO. I'll leave it overnight and then the rust will turn black into iron. I removed the old wheels, but the inserts remained and I did need to take those out. The easiest way I found without damaging anything else is to drill them out. The bottom part of the upper 2 drawers were shot. I replaced them using some scrap 1/4-inch plywood that I had. All of the drawer handles started out looking like this. After a couple minutes on my buffing wheel, they looked like this. Here's what one of the door hinges looked like before and after. The metal top with porcelain on one side is fairly flimsy and hollow on the underside. I decided to cut a piece of wood to fit the opening. I had this old IKEA desktop which I was able to cut and fit inside. This is going to give the base more stability and have some material that I can use to mount when connecting it to the base cabinet. I did need to pound out a couple of dents on the metal top. Now the cabinet is getting close to the finish line. It just needs a good once over before I can clean it up and prep it for painting. Now the exciting part. This is the part of the restoration where I breathe life into the old cabinet and I see all of my hard work pay off. For as much painting that's required, I think it would be a mistake to paint this using a brush. Now you could probably get away with using a brush or a foam roller, but I think that a spray gun is going to give you the best results. I'm using this beautiful alley picked indoor blue color. I don't know what the actual color name is, but it should be called alley picked blue if you ask me. After painting the door and the 3 drawers, here's how it turned out.